Hello, so today's video is going to be a book unhaul. I have a large bag of books that has been sat in my bedroom for quite some time and I want to get rid of them, so I'm going to show you guys what I'm going to be unhauling. Please excuse my very messy shelves. I need to do a whole revamp of my bookshelves and get them all clean and tidy, but that will be for another video on another day. So yeah, let's get into the books that I will be getting rid of. So the first book, I'm just going to pull them out randomly from whatever order they are in the bag, is this one, and it's Cut by Mark Raby. It's a serial killer thriller novel, and as you can see by the yellow pages, I've had this for quite some time and it's just never really stood out to me. I've tried to start it a couple of times, but unfortunately the story just didn't grip me and it just didn't hold my attention. So yeah, it's just been sat on my shelves for too many years and I have no intention to pick it up in the near future, so I'm just going to go ahead and unhaul it and hopefully somebody else will enjoy it. The next book, might be surprised to see this, but this is a James Herbert book and it's The Sphere. I haven't read this yet, and the reason I'm unhauling this book is because I already have a copy. I ended up with 2 copies of this book because I got 2 copies in the Abominable Book Club. It was like my mystery book, and yeah, I ended up getting 2 copies. I don't need 2 and I prefer the other cover, so yeah, I'll be passing this along to somebody else. It is an author I have read from before and have really enjoyed, so yeah, I'm definitely keeping 1 copy. I don't want to keep multiples of the same books unless they're like special editions or something. Yeah, I don't want to get into the habit of, you know, hoarding books that I don't really need to be hoarding. Same with this one. I really like the cover. I picked up a whole bunch of these Agatha Christie books from my local Oxfam charity shop a few years ago now. I'm pretty sure it was like well before COVID, but I picked them up and they've just been sat. Oh look, you can see I've actually started this book. There's a bookmark in there. Yeah, I've started it, but my thinking is I've been listening to audiobooks on YouTube and I know a lot of the Agatha Christie books are on audiobook, so I think I'm just going to listen to the Agatha Christie books if I want them, because I'm running out of space on my bookshelves and I need to make more space, and realistically I have other books I'm going to pick before this one, and if I want to read them in the future, then I know I can easily find them elsewhere. So although I love the covers, I love like vintage cover books, it is going to be hard to get rid of these. But yeah, I don't see myself reading them anytime soon. So yeah, I'm pretty sure there's more Agatha Christie ones in the bag as well. This book I have read, and it's How to Disappear by Gillian McAllister. I read this a while ago. I think there's a review up on my channel, but yeah, it was a good book. It was a book about a girl who goes into witness protection. She witnesses something and then ends up in court, and the people then kind of let off and they find out where she is and come after her. So yeah, you're following a girl in witness protection and her struggles with what she's going to say in court. Should she tell the truth? Should she say what she actually sees? Even though it's going to get her into a lot of trouble. It says it's a psychological suspense thriller. From what I remember, I did enjoy it, but it's not a book that I would reread, so that's why I'm going to go ahead and unhaul it, because yeah, it was like one of those books where you read it and you're like, oh yeah, that was really cool, and then when you find out the plot, it was mainly the plot and the thrill of it that was driving it. I wasn't that attached to the characters. So yeah, for that reason, I don't think I'm going to reread it. So it will be unhauled. Same with this one. And this is The Family Upstairs by Lisa Jewell. This is now a series, I think. I'm pretty sure I saw the 2nd or 3rd one out in Tesco recently. It was good. It was very twisty-turny. From what I remember, it was about a girl who no, it's about a family, and it's like surrounding cults and there's like 2 different families that end up living in one house, and then it's about what happened to them after all the different kids, like the result of the kids growing up in a cult. They all kind of went off and did other things with their lives, and then one of them comes back to the house. And yeah, it's a little bit foggy in my mind. I don't 100% remember everything. And it was a good read. It was a little bit slow. I think I have a review up of this book. But yeah, again, it's just not one that I would reread, and I haven't had the urge to continue with the series, so I'd rather pass this on and let somebody else enjoy it. So yeah, I think that's what is this what this book is about? Now I'm looking at 1 house, 2 families, 3 bodies. Yeah, the 2 families come together in the house. It says, a large house at London's fashionista. Baby wakes up in her cot, well fed, cared for. She's happily waiting for someone to pick her up. In the kitchen there's 3 decomposing bodies. Maybe I don't remember it as well as I think I do. I might have to flip through this one again and then I'll make up my mind. But I'm pretty sure I'm going to unhaul it, because if it is the one I think it is, if it is the book I think it is, then yeah, I do remember the plot twists. But yeah, I'm going to have to maybe take a second look at that one. This one I read recently and have reviewed recently on my channel, The Hiding Place, by Amanda Madsen. It was good. It didn't quite live up to what I wanted it to be. I felt the ending didn't quite hit. I love the cover, and I loved the fact it was set around this big, again, creepy house. This family are going on like a little getaway, and they end up staying in this house, and yeah, like creepy stuff happens. I don't want to say too much if you do want to read it. But yeah, it was good. It just wasn't fantastic. So again, it's one of those books where I don't feel like I'm going to reread. It was a 3-star for me. So yeah, I'm going to pass it along to somebody else, I think. What else do I have? I have Roald Dahl Madness. This has been in I know this has been in an unhaul video already, but then I changed my mind and I ended up keeping it, thinking, okay, if I read a little bit more of this, then maybe I'll keep it. I tried again. It's still a no. The writing's just very dry. It just doesn't grip me as well as his childhood books do. Yeah, so Roald Dahl Madness is now 100% going to the charity shops and being donated. This is another recent read. It's I Am Legend by James Masterton. No, sorry, not by James Masterton. Complete wrong author, by Richard Matheson. And yeah, I wanted to read this book for a very long time. It was on my list of like really want to read books, because I loved the film. I thought the film was great. I saw it when it first came out at the cinema, and I've rewatched it since. The book and the film are very, very different. The characters have the same name, and that's about it. I do have a full comparison video on this channel of the differences between the book and the film, but unfortunately this is one of those instances where I massively preferred the film over the book. And I'm definitely glad I read it, because like I said, it's been on my list for a very long time of books I want to read, but I'm not going to reread it. So yeah, that's kind of my thing with books. If I'm not going to reread it, then it gets unhauled. So the next one, this is Looking Glass Sound by Katrina Ward. I've also reviewed this one. This one was an interesting one. So Katrina Ward, I've read both of her other books. She's the author of Last House on Needless Street, which I really didn't like, for reasons you can see in that video. And she was also the author of Sundial, which was weird. It was a bit hit and miss for me. Her writing is very hit or miss. I like her writing style, and her plots are always very interesting, but the way she goes about the plot, it's just, there's just something off about it for me. The first 2 books I read by her, I didn't like the premise in the first one. I didn't like the kind of catch, the thing she used to draw everybody in. The second one was all over the place. It was a very complicated story. This one had a pacing issue. So the first half of this book I really enjoyed. It's set around 3 friends. A boy and his family go away to a seaside town for their holidays. The boy makes friends with 2 local children, and it's a kind of a coming of age story between him and his friends. He's a bit of an odd boy. They go off exploring together and get into all kinds of trouble, and there is this creepy man who like goes around this seaside town and is breaking into people's houses, and it's all a bit of a mystery and they don't know who it is. So it's kind of 2 stories running alongside each other, the mystery of that, but then also the coming of age story between the children. And the first half was very good, I enjoyed it. The second half was interesting. You're still following the main character, and he's reliving his story to a college friend, a university friend. And then the last half of this book completely lost me. Again, like with the other 2 books I read by this author, I feel like they try and cram too many concepts into one book and they just don't gel well for me. I read similar reviews on Goodreads about this book, that people liked the first half and then by the ending they were like, what the hell happened in the ending? Because even I don't really fully understand what happened in the ending. I was like, did that even make sense? So yeah, I kind of got lost on this one a little bit. Again, these are books that I receive through the Abominable Book Club. I don't think I would pick her works up if I was just in a shop and I saw it. I wouldn't buy another novel from her because I've read 3 now and all 3 of them were like a 3-star or lower. But this one was probably the best one I've read by her, and I know she is a very popular author. So if you like her other books, then you might like this one. It was interesting. It just, yeah, fell a little bit flat for me, so I'm not going to keep it. I think the only book I have kept of hers is Sundial, is somewhere on that shelf because I may reread that at some point. But yeah, that one I don't think I would reread. So that one is gone. The next one is Psychic Teen Bloodbath by Carol John Lee. This is an extreme horror book and I read it and I enjoyed it. I don't mind a bit of extreme horror. It has lots of trigger warnings in the front of this book. And this again was one that I received from Abominable Book Club and I actually did enjoy it somewhat. This is a story about this girl and she gets injured and she ends up being in some kind of coma-like state, and then she ends up being able to have like psychic abilities through this coma-like state. But yeah, it's just not one that I would reread, so that one is going to be going into the Unhaul book. The next one is a book called Payback's a Witch, and this book, I read this last year. Was it last year? Was it the year before? I can't remember. I basically started reading this last year and I never finished it. Yeah, that's it really. I kind of ended up unintentionally DNFing it. I didn't intentionally. I'm a bit of a mood reader, so I'll pick up books. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm really in the mood for this book, and then I put it down and then I feel like reading something else and then I completely forget about the book that I was originally reading. And this is one of those books. It was about a girl who has moved away. She grew up in this town where it's involved around witchcraft, and there are these different old families and there's different sectors of magic. And her family come from like the arbiters of this magical town. Like, they have this like competition every so many years and she has to go back and be the judge of this competition, and she doesn't really want to go back but she feels like it's her duty, and it's all a little bit angsty, and the magical system was interesting. Now that I'm talking about it, I'm like, should I finish it? But yeah, it's just been I literally got halfway through and then it wasn't interesting enough for me to go like, oh yeah, oh that book, when I saw it on my shelf I was like, oh it's not like, oh I must finish this book. It was just like, oh yeah, I forgot about that one. And I think because if I felt that way, it obviously didn't hold my attention that well, and I'm trying not to be too picky with what I, you know, get rid of, because like I said, I really need the space. So yeah, I think maybe I'll skim read the end to find out what happens, but I wasn't overly invested to find out what happens, so that isn't that one. The next one I have is Double Act by Jacqueline Wilson. I picked this one up with the intention of later unhauling it again. It's a book that I read in my childhood. I wasn't a massive Jacqueline Wilson fan, but I grew up in the era where her books were very hyped when I was younger, and I read a few of them, and this was one of them. It involves two twin sisters, both very different personalities. They are having a bit of trouble at school. Their mum passed away and their dad has a new girlfriend, and they're kind of causing trouble in that situation. And yeah, it's between, one of the twins is Ruby, one of them is Garnet. When I read this book, I 100% remembered everything about the story as I was reading it. It was a very, very nostalgic read for me. But like I said, I did pick this up with the intention of then passing it along and putting it back into the thrift shop so somebody else can pick it up and enjoy it. So yeah, it was a good read. I enjoyed it. It was very nostalgic, but not one that I'm going to keep on my shelves. It's not like a super must-have read, you know. Next one is Sweet Pea. This book is by C.J. Scullis. I think this book has now been turned into a TV series. I'm pretty sure, I can't remember if it's on Netflix or if it's on Amazon, but I saw an advertisement for it and I read this book. I don't know what happened with this book, because subjectively looking at it, it's a book that I should really enjoy. It focuses around a female serial killer, and she is going about her everyday life. She's having quite an unsatisfying life. She's not happy with her partner, she's not happy with work, and basically anyone that mildly pisses her off she decides to kill. And she's gone on this big killing spree. She's kind of like losing her marbles by the end of the book. And the book ends on a cliffhanger, and when I picked this up I didn't realise it was a series. I thought it was a standalone, and I don't know, when I'm picking up a book and it's in a series, I like to know it's a series. So when it left on a cliffhanger, I was like pretty pissed off. I was like, oh damn, because I found the main character a little bit annoying, which sometimes doesn't matter, but I don't feel like the plot had enough in it that kept me really wanting to know what was going to happen. And I think it was just a little bit too similar. I read another book which was very, very similar to this, I think a couple of months before, and then after reading this one I think I read them too close together and they were too similar, and I was in a bit of a shitty mood when I read this, because thinking back on it, it is the kind of book that I would normally like, but for some reason I just didn't like it all that much. I think I gave it a 3-star in the end, and I'm not really fussed about continuing this series, especially if I know that it's going to end up being a TV series. I'll just watch the TV series. So yeah, to find out the ending, I think I'm just going to do that. I don't think I would pick up more books. I think it just dragged in places, and I was just like, it dragged. The pacing was a little bit off. The main character was a bit annoying. She just came off as a bit stupid in some areas that I found frustrating. So yeah, frustrating. It was a frustrating read. So yeah, for obvious reasons I'm going to be getting rid of that. Here are my other Agatha Christie books. So I'm also getting rid of The Clocks, A Third Girl, and Appointment by Death. Again, like I said, I found these all on YouTube on audiobooks, so I'm just gonna listen to them on audiobooks, even though I really love the covers. Like, look at that cover, that's so cool. But yeah, I'm going to pass them along. Oh, here's another one. That one might be my favourite actually, The Eyeball. It's very like old school point horror-esque kind of cover. But yeah, towards 0. Next one, The Beauty and the Beast. It's like a nature book. I must have read the first chapter of this book. Oh look, I've actually got a bookmark in it. It's the London Science Museum I was using as a bookmark, a little leaflet. Yeah, I've read the first chapter of this book multiple times, never got any further than that. It just didn't hold my attention, so I'm going to pass up on that. And we are getting to the last few. Oh, one of the last ones is All Hallows Eve by Christopher Golden. I think I have a review up of this on my channel. I was so disappointed by this book. I was so excited when I got it. I thought this sounds amazing. It's a horror surrounding Halloween. This family is building, it follows like a couple of different people, but yeah, it follows this guy, and it's their last Halloween in their house, and every year he does up the whole woodland area near his house. He does it up as like this haunted wood house thing, and creepy stuff starts happening. Also, I thought that's what I thought it was going to be about, but it ended up being so disappointing. I was just like, no. It ended up being very, very angsty. It's very, very teeny, which isn't bad. If you're into YA horror, you might like this book. I'm not into YA horror. Well, that's a lie, because I like point horror books. But a specific type where it's like very focused on teen angst. It just really dragged this book for me. It had so many aspects. I so wanted it to be good. And the first half was okay, the middle half was okay, and then it just got really confusing towards the end. I don't think it wrapped up the story very well. It's like the author had a really good concept for a story, and then by the time it got to the last half of the book, they were like, okay, we'll just do this. But it could have been so much better. And yeah, it kind of ended up just you were following a bunch of teenagers, or different groups of teenagers going around this town, and yeah, it just fell a little bit flat for me. I literally marked off the most exciting points in this book. I think there's 3 tabs, and one of them, the first time anything actually happens in this book, like of horror significance, is 157 pages in. 157 pages in is when any horror happens. I literally wrote on the tab, I've written here, not much horror so far, just family drama. There was a lot of family drama in this. It was basically like family drama with a tiny sprinkling of horror, and yeah, I was so disappointed. So yeah, that can go. Hopefully somebody else who enjoys family drama will prefer that book over than me. And then last one, I have another book that I DNF'd, and this is Hailey Piper's A Light Most Hateful. This was a recent DNF. I believe I've also done a video on this book. Yeah, really disappointing. It sounded cool. It's set in this town, and it starts off good. You're at this like old-fashioned drive-in theatre, which I love it when it describes those in books, because we don't really have them in the UK, or if we did, we have them nowhere near where I live. It seems to be like a very American thing in my mind, and I found that really cool. I liked that setting, and it's kind of in the woods, and then trouble happens, and started off good. The middle half, I was just like, I don't know what the hell is happening in this book. It was one of those books where I really had to concentrate on what I was reading, and I really had to think about what I was reading, and it just got a little bit like this book was ending up being quite a lot of effort to try and enjoy this story, and it's like, oh, this is too much effort and not enough payoff. So I ended up DNFing, unfortunately. So yeah, this one wasn't for me. Hopefully somebody else will like it a bit better than me. So yeah, that's everything I have to unhaul. I don't think there's anything else in the bag, no. So that is all the books I will be unhauling this month, at the very beginning of February. So yeah, those are the books I'll be getting rid of. Let me know your thoughts down below. Have you read any of these?